Good morning, and I apologise. Unreservedly, bear with me a second. I can still hear music playing in the background. Where's that coming from? That's it. It was playing on my mobile phone. Listen. The whole thing's a complete mess. As you may have guessed, I was on the phone to Komatsu. I was on a Zoom call with Komatsu. Literally started at 9:30. I told them it was going to be half an hour, and then we got talking. I apologise unreservedly. That crane guy, Tristan Mace, just said, "Good morning, Mark. Only one more week left until you get to spend a few days with your favourite crane guy." Well, one of my favourite. No, my only favourite crane guy. I don't know any other crane guys. Morning, Tristan. Good of you to join us. Lots and lots of people here. Mick has just arrived. Morning, Mick. How are you doing, mate? I'm glad to see you here. And Ken Hatcher has just arrived as well. Let's press the buttons for those guys. Just while I'm catching my breath, my breath. There we are. Let's get. So, news headlines today. Let me take that out of the way and show you exactly what it is I'm talking about. There we are. So there we are. This is a news headline today from Construction Inquirer. I realise this part of the business is not really our usual fare, but I'm going to speak about it very quickly. Apparently, a Midlands mechanical and electrical specialist called J.S. Wright went down owing creditors £19 million. Apparently, they'd worked on a number of high-rise residential schemes, including Grenfell, funnily enough. According to a report from administrators FRP, trade creditors and suppliers are unlikely to see any of the £11.4 million that they're owed. Now, the reason I wanted to highlight this is, I'm going to take it off the screen so you can see me. One of the reasons I wanted to highlight that was, how is this still happening? How are we allowing debts of £19 million to rack up? Bearing in mind all that we have at our disposal in terms of electronic banking and stuff. I'm going to go back now, probably 20 years. Me and a friend of mine did a little bit of share trading. Some successful, some less so. But one of the things that we had in our arsenal, and this is very, very, as I say, 20 years ago, very early doors with electronic banking, electronic transactions and stuff. One of the things that we had was you could set an upper and a lower limit. So if you bought, let's say you bought a share at £1, if that share dropped to 90p, for example, I could have actually set an instruction on my share dealing that said, if it hits 90p, sell it, get out, because I don't want to lose any more money. By the same token, if it had hit £1.10, I could have set a trigger to sell then, because I'd have made a 10% profit. How is it that we're not getting the same thing with this? Now, I've said this to you before. I don't go into doing business with anyone that I don't know these days without doing a fair bit of homework on, their credit rating. Do they pay their bills on time? Do they pay their bills at all? And so on down the line. But unfortunately, that's all a bit too late. Why is there not a system that says, like a trigger? Here is a trigger to say this company has clearly got issues. 19 million quid, and we're not talking about a vast company here. And bearing in mind, I think Squibs went owing about 22, 23 million. I can't remember how much ISG was in the hole for, how much Carillion was in. But how are we allowing this just to rack up and rack up and rack up, and then all acting surprised when it's all too late? Dan says, how is it possible to get into millions of debt? Have they not learned from others that have gone under? No. Now, I know from within. I mean, I guess it's a bit like a gambler trying to chase their losses. We've had a bad month, but don't worry, next month things will be better, and we'll just, we'll borrow a bit more money and we'll keep pushing, and maybe we'll lean on our supply chain a little bit more. But at some point, surely somebody must go, dicey now. Dicey. And listen, the one that I've got my eye on, I mean, they're still making a lot of money, but you look at the way that Vistry is running its business. Would I sign up to do work with or do business with Vistry tomorrow? No, I wouldn't, because alarm bells are ringing as far as I'm concerned. Mick says, see, the developers are now saying because of the cladding saga, there are no chances that Starmer's 1.5 million is going to happen. Wasn't much chance anyway, was there? And bearing in mind, also, we've got this new Building Safety Act, which, there's gonna be a learning curve for that, even those that, do that learning curve very quickly, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, and I just don't I can't see it happening. Well, I mean, I couldn't see it happening before, and I know they've revised the figure down from 1.5 to 1.3 million. I'll be staggered if they make 1 million. I really will. Dan says, "What about the employees and the subbies?" Yeah. Why do we not have whistleblowers? Or do we have whistleblowers? I don't know. Um, if you are working for a company like JNS or JS, right, or for ISG or Carillion or any of these companies, and you start to see things looking sketchy, should you not be on the blower to somebody? Oh, partly to find yourself a new role or a new gig, but also to alert those that need to be alerted. How do you go about doing business? I mean, let's take a demolition company. What one of the expenses for a demolition company is hiring equipment or hiring attachments. If you are the person that is responsible for that, you're the person that gets on the phone to deal with the local plant hire company or deal with a plant hire company up in another part of the country. At what point do you think, I'm kind of stitching these people up? I know what's going on behind the scenes, and I'm expecting them to come to my aid with attachments and equipment. Does personal guilt not get you? Jim Turner, I think, rightly says they keep going because they keep dragging a wage out of it. They can keep their assets safe, fold the firm, and restart again straight away. Yeah, 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 yeah. Just like all those who voted Labour now realise what a bunch of useless morons they voted in. There is trouble afoot, believe me. Yeah, there is, but if you look, if you look at the UK and its current government, I don't think anybody can look at it and think, well, at least they're doing that. And then you flip the coin and look at America, who apparently have been smoking the crack or something. Anybody that can turn a country as warm, as welcoming, as hospitable as Canada into an enemy, you're doing something wrong. You really are. At what point do we as a society look at the Labour Party, look at the Trump cabinet and go, this ain't working, is it? This clearly ain't working. Or do we just carry on? Do we just carry on? I don't know. Anyway, I'm already running late. I do want to get the show underway because I've got a lot to get through. So let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Monday, the 31st of March. Do you remember January seemed to last for about a year, and March has gone by in about that long? Yeah, it's Monday, the 31st of March. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, a record-breaking blast from America, a crawler carrier built to withstand the harshest conditions. We're going to look at the future of paving with Dynapac, and we're going deep on large cat wheel loaders. Plus, in my morning monologue, I'm not complaining about anything today. I know I should have warned you to sit down, but I'm not complaining about anything. Instead, I'm going to look at Bauma and the pilgrimage of plant. Before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine to solve. So it's all over and by the shouting anyway. I've already won this month, so you're just taking part for fun at this point. But take part anyway. Here we go. Yeah, mystery machine. I'm sorry, I'm just looking something up because I want to make sure I've got my my ducks in a row. Okay, so mystery machine looks like that. As always, we are looking for a make and a model. Good morning to Garvin, who's just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to the demo MC as well. Good morning to you. What have we got here in the chat? Congratulations, Mark. Congratulations on fooling you all. Thank you very much indeed. I'll come back to the question of the day in just a moment. I'll leave you to study this one just a touch longer. Anyone got any clues on what that might be? Okay, well, while you're thinking about that, let me very quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yeah, question of the day today comes, as always, well, mostly, from our resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead. And his question is this: when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? I mean, I wanted to be Bobby Moore. Who wouldn't? Or failing that, I wanted to be Trevor Brooking, majestic midfield maestro, sweeping passes, barely breaking a sweat, scoring the winner in a cup final. That would have done me quite nicely. But what about you? We've had some answers, and I have to say, some of you guys have actually followed through on your childhood ambition. There's one, Chris Ford. Question of the day: I wanted to be a digger driver or a farmer. Lo and behold, Ken Hatcher. Meanwhile, well, he ended up as a driver operator, but he wants to be a train driver. Train driver. Yes, listen, I don't want to do stereotypes at this point, but Ivor the engine, that was Welsh, wasn't it? Yes. Dan Collins says, farming, outdoors, can't stand being stuck indoors. Well, yeah, there you are. Jim Turner wanted to be a plant operator, just waiting to grow up now. Fair enough. Mick says, and I have to say, and I'll riff on this in a bit. Depending what came into my head that morning, still not sure if I ever thought of demolition. I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. Which it always makes me wonder, when you sit down with a careers advisor. I think I did that when I was like 14. What would you like to do when you grow up? All right. All right. I think the only jobs I was aware of was midfielder for West Ham, astronaut, and prime minister. No, I was ill-equipped for all of those. Mostly diggers. Garvin just said, as a child, architect. As a teenager, ninja. Wow. Is that considered a job or is that a calling? Do you get paid to be a ninja? I don't know. Gary Muirhead. That's it. That's show over. There's no going back from that. I've been asked to help pick the new NFTC CEO. We'll all sit in the boardroom, play music, and when it stops, we'll take a chair away. And the last one sitting down, the job is yours. Well done. Oh, well, could it actually be any worse than that? That's a work of genius, Gary. Thank you for that. I'm going to be giggling about that for the entire day. I did see a quote, and I have to say I have reserved it. I saw a quote online. I think I was over on Substack, and somebody had put a picture of Donald Trump, and it said, "Turned out, rock bottom has a basement." I'm thinking the same. Let me throw up the mystery machine very quickly. There it is again. I'm going to tell you, we do have some guesses. Mick says, Gary, that's made my day. Yeah, it absolutely has mine too. Dan Cullen reckons that could be a Volvo ADT. It is not. Dan also reckons it could be a Cat 725. It's not. He reckons it could be a Bell B20E. It is not one of those. And just I'll show you a bit more of that in a second. But Gary comes back with a question of the day. You want to be a train driver? Another train driver? After having an Intercity 125 train set. Intercity 125. Do you know I never had a train set as a kid? Never wanted one, never had one. Had Scalectric, even though I'm not particularly interested in cars, had one of those. I was given it for Christmas one year, and it was like a figure of eight. And I remember my father saying, you know, we'll get more track as we go along, and we'll build this enormous track. And we never did. We never did. We did the figure of eight until I got bored, and then got back on my bike and went and did something else. Right, mystery machine. Here we are. That's the bit that I've showed you so far. There's a little bit more. Does that help? I can tell you that a few people have got the well, I think, well, everybody has got the right type of machine, but what we're looking for actually is a make and a model. Jim Turner says he's still got his train set and his Scalextric. That must be worth a few quid now, mustn't it? I mean, I don't know what sort of condition it's in, but are they not sort of collector's items now? I don't know. Don't know. Um, right, should we start the show proper? Because I've got wow, I've got a video to show you first off that will rock your socks off. Back after this. So I had a message on Instagram last night from a company called Thumb Coast Aerial. Never heard of them before, but they dropped me a line to say we've just filmed a blast, and it's a record-breaking blast. A couple of the stacks that they brought down, or they didn't bring down, implosion. What are they called? Uh, hmm. Implosion Technologies actually did the blast. This is the Homer City power plant. As I say, Thumb Coast Aerial sent me a video saying, yeah, if you want to play this on your show, you feel free. So I'm going to do just that. There is a longer version of this. I've chopped this down purely because of timing. There's a full 7-minute version of this, but get your eyeballs around this. Two, one, final. I don't know what Gary's been on this morning, but he's really full of it this morning. Here we go. I once got an empty box for Christmas one year. My father said it was an Action Man deserter kit. Hey, have you been drinking, Gary? What? Why are you all humorous and stuff this morning? Going back to the mystery machine, Dan Cullen has hit the post. He's gone for an XDA A40 6x6. He's also gone for that, the XMG XDA A40. Very close, very close. Let me show you a bit more. There you are. There's a bit more to be going on with. Mick says that those cooling towers coming down. Well, as I say, 1,200 foot high, an American record apparently. Reminds me of when me and the old boys leave the pub after a session. We normally tumble one by one. Isn't it funny when your mates fall over when they're drunk? I was telling somebody this a little while ago. One of my a family friend. I won't bore you with how they're a family friend, but one family friend, lady, lovely lady, Linda, had been out on the sauce, clearly had a lot to drink. And the guy she was with, she decided, I can't walk anymore. You can give me a piggyback. So she jumped on his back. And you know that thing you do when you've got like a child on your back and you kind of bump them up to get them a little bit higher so you can. He did that as she leaned back, and she went through a hedge. So when he turned around to find out where she'd gone, she'd vanished. There was no it was like she'd been abducted by aliens, just completely vanished. In actual fact, she was laying in somebody's front garden, giggling like an idiot. Let's have a look. We've got a right answer on our mystery machine, which is good news because it means I don't have to worry about it anymore. Dan Cullen. Congratulations, Dan. Going out on the month on a high. DC, 3 points. As I say, not quite enough. I think I beat you by 3 points, but not a big deal. So yes, it is. It is an XCMG XDA 30. Just to prove it, there we are. Well done, Dan. Top work, my friend. We start again. We start again tomorrow with a clean sheet of paper and a new bunch of machines. Also, obviously, need to remind you that I won't be here next week because Bauma just takes over your life. Back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Right, crawler carriers. Not all crawler carriers are created equal. Some are built for the very harshest of conditions, like this. They're a proper job, aren't they? As Dan Collins just said, great tool they are. Yeah, they really are. If you ever get a chance to go and have a play with a print-off, I would highly recommend it. What else have we got? Oh, we've got loads of stuff coming up. We're talking Cat large wheel loaders in just a moment, immediately after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, late last week we brought you a video talking about Caterpillar mining trucks, like a deep dive into the Caterpillar mining trucks. Well, we've got a different one now. We're doing a deep dive into their large wheel loaders.
We're now talking Cat large wheel loaders with John Merrick. And John, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
The Cat 995 is not only the newest Cat large wheel loader, it's a new model. Why the addition?
So that's an interesting question because when you say new model, that decision was actually made in terms of all new model more than 10 years ago when we were working on the 994K. So the 994K had almost no resemblance to the generation of 994s before. You could say that about the only thing that was the same was the tires and the engine model. The reason I say that is because the 995, it's a new model, has a new name, has somewhat of a new purpose, but it's based on the 994K, so it's not all new, and that's a good thing because the 994K was a good machine. It had a great reputation.
So why does this wheel loader have a new name?
So the 995 name represents the increase in the payload capacity of the machine. So the 5 stands for 50 tons. What was the purpose of the increase in payload? That goes back to the pass match, optimizing the pass match with the truck. The 994K was the big step change in size, more so than the 995. The 995 actually didn't grow in size, grew just slightly in weight, and so we did that fine tuning, and now we have that really optimal pass match to the trucks.
What are some of the optional features on the 995?
One of the optional features is partial automation of the digging. When you have the partial automation of the digging active, you don't have to use that left pedal anymore. It does all that for you. That covers 2 of the 3 features that you get within the partial automation of the digging. The first is tire slip prevention. So what the machine's doing there is when you have more force down on the tires, you have more traction. So it's giving you some extra rim pull. When you lose that force, it's taking away. So it's actually proactively managing that tire before it slips. We found that to be a very effective way of managing the rim pull, as we call it. The second was the lift stall prevention, which is preventing your hydraulics on your lift cylinder from stalling out as a result of too much rim pull, too much force in the pile. And the third aspect of this partial automation of the digging is what we sometimes call auto set tire or tire set. When you are going in to get that bucket full of material, you have a flat bucket, you're headed towards the pile, you make contact with the pile, and the ideal technique is as soon as that bucket is far enough underneath the pile that you can apply an upward lift force, that adds more weight to the front tire than it takes off the back tires. So we call that setting the tires. And you have to do it at just the right time. So this feature is taking the measurements as the machine's digging, and it knows the exact right time to give that first lift command. So back to the perspective of the operator, you don't have to worry about the left pedal, and your hands are off the implement controls. As you head into the pile, the bucket gives the first lift command, and then you take over. So it's a really nice blend of letting the machine do what the machine is good at and letting the human judgment do what the human judgment is good at. Speaking of operator technique, that would lead into another optional feature, which is operator coaching. And the operator coaching feature looks at 21 different aspects of the way the operator is using the machine, and it gives you feedback on all those things. And you can review the report for each operator, and you can say, here are the things that we still need to work on, and you can do that until every operator is up to the highest level of proficiency.
John, you talked a lot about the importance of bucket size, which I'm sure could be a little bit complicated. How does a customer determine what's the best bucket size, and what's the best bucket for what they need to do?
The way that I would always like a customer to be able to make that decision is first to bring in your CAT dealer and have them come out to look at the site, look at the job that the machine needs to do. Not only pain points, but what's the basic job that the machine needs to do? What type of blast are we dealing with? What type of density, of course? What is the target payload on the truck? Sometimes it's not just the nominal, but what's the actual customer's target payload? How does that divide back into whole numbers of passes into the truck? Then we know what our target payload is. Then we combine that with the type of digging conditions to do. So yes, it's complicated, but it's worth it because over the life of the machine, the right size bucket saves, in some cases, more than the entire purchase price of the machine over time. So it's worth the work to do it right.
John, thanks for the great overview on the 995 and CAT large wheel loaders. Now, let's find out more about the 995.
There we are. No idea what happened at the end of the film there. I'm going to go back to this. Jim says, clever tech, but takes the fun out of being an operator. I think when you listen to some of that, like the right bucket can, over the course of a lifetime of that machine, the right bucket can actually save you the cost of the machine. I think one of the things that I'm very, very conscious of, particularly in the mining and quarrying business, is quite how well all of that is analysed. And I don't think the fun of the operator is really a consideration. They are just pure production. That's all they're interested in, getting the absolute max out of them. Mick says, agree with that, Jim. Mind you, being an operator isn't much fun anymore anyway. Yeah. Dan says, a rim pull, that's a first. Well, it may be for you, having been raised in the way of the Caterpillar. They talk about that a lot. And it's not, I know you've said here Heard of wheels slip or spin? This is a different thing. Rim pull is basically, if you imagine when a tire has bitten in, and it's the amount of force that it can generate to drive that machine into the pile. So it's a very Caterpillar term, and it is talking about that ability to sort of drive into the pile using the grip within the tires. Gary Muirhead says, we had a comic in Scotland called Chick Murray. I remember Billy Connolly talked about Chick Murray, who said he fell in the street and a woman said, "Did you fall?" He said, "No, I'm trying to break a bar of chocolate in my back pocket." That's genius, isn't it? Absolute genius. What else have we got coming up today? Oh, we're going paving a second. After this. As you're about to hear in my morning monologue, which is talking all about Bauma, Bauma is obviously looking at the present, but it's also giving people a glimpse of the future. I can tell you, having come off the phone to Komatsu this morning, they've actually got a couple of prototype machines. I can't tell you what they are because I'm sworn to secrecy. They've got a couple of prototype machines, which I'm really delighted about, not just because of I get to see prototype machines, but that's not the way that Komatsu usually work. Komatsu are a pretty conservative company. They tend to, here's a thing that is available now. They've actually got a couple of machines that are going to be on the stand that are prototypes. They won't be in their finished form. Looking forward to seeing that. So, as I say, future focused, and this, according to Dynapac, is the future of paving.
At Dynapac, we believe innovation should feel as natural as the work you do. That's why we created the new generation of pavers, designed to extend your skill and elevate your every move. The XD and SD series is all about intuitive control, where every feature adapts seamlessly to your workflow, creating a unique interaction between operator and machine. The XD and SD series doesn't just help you perform, it enhances your precision, comfort, and efficiency, allowing you to exceed expectations on every project. Built for long-term reliability, the XD and SD series offers an extended lifespan, delivering even greater value and a higher return on your investment. Whether it's turning obstacles into opportunities or simplifying complex tasks, the XD and SD series combines advanced technology with operator-friendly controls, ensuring that every task is completed with confidence and durability. But it's not just about getting the job done. It's about transforming how the work feels. With Dynapac XD and SD series, you're not just paving roads, you're paving the future.
The future of paving, according to Dynapac. I don't know what half of that stuff does, but as Dan rightly said, looks good, and there's loads of buttons to press in possibly in the wrong order, playing all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order, as the expression goes. We've got one more film to show you today, which I think is a Bauma preview. So back after this.
Think you can stop what we do? I doubt it. We've got the energy, we'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, Sani. I think we've featured some of the things that Lugong have got coming up. I think we've had Sunward, I think we've had XCMG, and this is what their Chinese compatriots, the fine folks at Sani, have got planned for Bauma. Looking forward to seeing that. And a big thank you to MB Crusher for sponsoring our mission to Munich.
Turn this TV off. Ain't want my type activity, but don't you get involved. Hey, what? How many shit I seen? Send them all. Take a risk or take a trip. You know I'm tripping for my dog.
Mick has just said this, just looking on the other computer, had an article on that rim pull force. It does have an adverse effect on metal stresses. Interesting. Will you be visiting the Sani stand? I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt it. If I tell you, I mean, I could show. No, I can't show you actually because it's in a different format. But no, we've basically got our entire week from Sunday morning until Friday lunchtime. Our entire diary is just blocked out, completely blocked out, with virtually no room to maneuver. Peter says, I'm late, but I've been up all night in agony with my ribs. Get well soon, my friend. That bloody chest of yours. I wish there was something we could do about it. Gary Muirhead says, once had a pint in a gay bar in Glasgow, and a rim pull was something completely different. That was my first and very last pint in there. I got out there, my butt cheeks truly clenched. I can't remember. I think it was called the Windsor Castle. I may have that wrong. Me and a bunch of my mates went up to the West End of London, years and years ago, and you know that slow dawning realization. We walked into a bar, literally parked the car. Let's go and have a pint. Okay, first pub we came into, and we ordered a pint each, and we're all stood there, chewing the fat and enjoying ourselves. And one of us, I don't think it was me, but one of us looked around and noticed that there was no women in there at all. None at all. But rather than thinking, well, that's weird, it was like slow down. It's weird. No women in here. And then we heard somebody, literally one or two along the bar, and this is absolutely truth. He said, and I'll do it in my very best voice. He actually said, oh, and he really hurt me. At which point the penny dropped and we went, this probably wasn't our best choice of bar. They were a nice bunch though. Gay bars in Wigan and Preston, full of straights and gays, all leave each other a note alone, as well they might. Something just popped up on my screen. Where in God's name did that go? No idea what that's all about. So yes, that's the main part of this morning show over and done with. I do apologise for my late arrival. Do you know I've never been late before. I know we had a few false starts back in the day because the tech wasn't working, but we've never actually had a complete breakdown in communications. But I was 5 minutes late today, and I apologise for that unreservedly. I promise to be back on time tomorrow. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like into my morning monologue, which is in praise of Bauma. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very, very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around. I'll be back after this. Once every 3 years, they come. From over 100 nations, from the frozen north to the burning equator, they make their way to Munich. 1 million strong, they arrive at the Messermunchen Exhibition Centre, drawn by something greater than mere curiosity. This is not just an exhibition. This is Bauma. And for those in the demolition and construction industry, it's more than a trade show. It's a pilgrimage. They come to stand in the shadow of giants. Towering cranes stretch towards the heavens like the spires of imaginary cathedrals, their booms reaching into infinity, their steel forms etched against the sky as if in silent prayer. The faithful gaze upward, dwarfed by their sheer scale of human ingenuity, feeling the same reverence one might feel when standing beneath the arches of a great temple. This is a sacred space, a place where faith in machines, in industry, in progress is reaffirmed. Massive dump trucks crouch like mythical beasts waiting to be tamed. Excavators, their arms outstretched, promise power and precision beyond imagination. Each machine is more than metal and hydraulics. To those who gather, they are symbols of progress, of strength, of the very foundation upon which the world is built. They're relics of past triumphs and harbingers of the future, as if forged by the gods of the industry themselves. But this pilgrimage is not just about what is seen, it's about what is felt. The hum of conversation in 100 dialects, all speaking the same universal language. That building and breaking, creating and demolishing are acts of purpose, of necessity, and of pride. Here they walk among their own, among those who understand what it means to shape the world with their hands, to wrestle with the steel and stone, to conquer earth and gravity. They don't come as individuals, they come as a congregation, united by trade, by passion, by an unspoken reverence for the machines that make their work possible. They seek more than spectacle, they seek a glimpse into the future. They gather to witness the latest technology, to see what tomorrow holds for the industry to which they have devoted their entire lives. Autonomous machines whisper promises of efficiency. Electric and hydrogen powered equipment herald a cleaner world. Digital innovations offer precision that once seemed impossible. For some, those advancements spark excitement. For others, quiet unease. But all who come know that they are standing at the edge of change, looking into an unfathomable yet exciting unknown. As they walk the great halls and open air arenas, they speak in hushed tones, as if in the presence of something greater than themselves. They kneel before the machines, not in worship, but to inspect the details, to touch the steel, to admire the welds, to run their hands across the contours of a cab. They discuss specifications with the same intensity that others debate scripture. They don't just see these machines, they feel them, understanding in ways that outsiders never could. Each booth, each stand, each towering display is an altar, a place of knowledge, of learning, of reverence for the craft. And when it's over, they will leave, not empty-handed, but bearing tokens of their journey. Hats and t-shirts, miniature models of the machines that captured their imagination. Souvenirs, yeah, but also relics of an experience shared by 1 million fellow believers. More than that, they will leave with memories, with stories of the things they've seen, the people they've met, the ideas that have taken root in their minds. The pilgrimage is exhausting. Feet ache from miles walked on concrete paths. Voices grow hoarse from endless conversation, from debates over the merits of one machine versus another, from laughter shared with old friends and new acquaintances alike. Yet none complain. Fatigue is a small price to pay for the privilege of being part of something so grand, so all-encompassing. To walk among these machines is to be reminded of why they chose this life in the first place. Bauma isn't just an exhibition. It's a ritual, a rite of passage, a moment in time when the faithful gather to pay homage to the industry that shapes the world. And as they depart, returning to their work sites and their offices and their machines, they do so knowing they will return again. 3 years from now, they will make the pilgrimage once more, drawn back by the same invisible force, the same need, the same unshakable devotion to the craft that defines them. As they board planes, trains, and trucks to return home, they carry with them more than brochures and business cards. They carry inspiration, a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper connection to the industry that binds them all. For here, amid the towering cranes and gleaming steel, they've been reminded that they are part of something greater, that their work is not just a job, but a calling. They are the builders of civilization, the custodians of progress, the silent architects of tomorrow. And when the time comes, they will return, as they always have, as they always will, because this is Bauma. And for the faithful, this is sacred ground. There you are. Rather poetic for me, and particularly for a Monday morning, but that's what Bauma is all about, people. If you can get there, do. If you can't, well, wow. What are you going to do? Let's have a look. Bend for a friend. I wonder what was happening when you said something had popped up. Well, you know how your computer listens to you and presents to you that which you just wished. Well, yeah. Peter says, Mark, late FFS, naughty boy, slaps wrist, should have stood you in the naughty corner. I broadcast from the Naughty Corner. Dan Cullen, thank you very much indeed, Dan. Wow, Mark, well written. Yeah, listen, I still have my moments. Jim Turner, and that's the phrase. It's not just a job, it's our way of life. Yeah. Listen, I realise that Bauma, those that exhibit at Bauma, obviously are keen for the great and the good. You know, the people with the checkbooks, the decision makers, to attend and hopefully invest in tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions of pounds worth of equipment. But the lion's share of people that make the pilgrimage to Bauma are you guys. It is particularly German operators, but operators to go along and get a feel. And honestly, it is an exhibition like no other. You can literally find yourself stood there with pretzel in one hand, a beer in the other, talking to a German, an Austrian, a Dutchman, an Australian, somebody from somewhere in the darkest of Africa, and we all speak precisely the same language. We speak the language of plant, and even if we can't make ourselves understood in regular terms, you know, what's the weather like? Where do you come from? We can't do all that, but we can all share that language of plant and equipment. Mick says, "Get on this." When I came out of Nick, I was asked to work the door. Got this pub and asked the barman for Dave. He said, "I'll go and get him." Go to the other bar. I'd off he minced. In the other bar, there was a bird and a looker. Is that a looker or a hooker? I don't know. Hand on knee, etc. When I looked behind me, there was a 10-foot photo of the Disappointer sisters, and she was one of them. I shrank in many ways very quickly. I'm assuming that's the Pointer sisters. But I don't know. As part of the review of current regulatory framework, the government has announced a review of a number of regulations, including those for health and safety. In what they class as older prescriptive legislation, this encompasses the lifting operations and lifting equipment regulations, LOLA, first introduced. Listen, we've discussed this on the show before. There must be room for that. To actually go back and say, okay, you know, we've got all these regulations from CDM regs down to LOLA, all points in between. Can we not just combine them all into one document? You think about how we, as the industry, is expected to condense our RAMs, risk assessments and method statements, into something manageable and readable and understandable. Isn't it about time we did that with legislation? I'm not talking about I don't want to talk about Doge. You know, I don't want to get Elon Musk in to sort things out. But surely you'd have thought by now somebody would have had a long, hard look at this and gone, we could do this better. You know, we could condense all of this into one document so we could do away with all of this regulation, just have this one thing that everyone needs to understand. Would that not be a better idea? And apparently it was the Disappointer systems. It was a drag act. I've got to say, they were bloody good. What was the name of that place in Soho? I've been there a couple of times. There was like a drag act bar in Soho. Very, very famous. And I can't for the life of me. Madam. No. What was it called? All I would say is not really my cup of tea. Madam Jojo's, I think it was. I think it was. Really good. Really good. Peter McKenna says, my best mate was a drag artist and DJ. When Made Up Your Mind was blown because he looked extremely feminine. He was married with 5 kids, yeah. Yeah, listen, if that's what you do. I don't have the legs for it, frankly. I'd never get away with that. And the beard would be a bit of a giveaway. But yeah, good luck. Yeah, so going back to Bauma, I know somebody said earlier, where is it? I think it was fairly sure it was Gary said this. Safe travels to Bauma, my friend. I'm not jealous. No, really, I'm not jealous at all. Only joking. Have a fantastic time. It is. As I say, I was on a call with Komatsu earlier before I came on the show. I'm going to blame them for me being late, although it wasn't entirely my fault. There was a young guy and a young intern has just joined the fine folks at Komatsu. And he's literally been with the company a couple of weeks, not much more than that. So he is joining just in time to go and experience Bauma. And honestly, I would be astounded if he can go through the show and not just go like that. It is. I always emphasize this point when I tell people outside the industry. Bauma isn't just the biggest construction equipment exhibition in the world. It's the biggest exhibition in the world. There will be 1 million people walk through the gates of that place. Bear with me. Yeah, 1 million people over the course of 6 days. When you think about what does Hillhead attract? 20,000, something like that? Plant Works, about the same, 20, 25,000? And we're talking 1 million. It just blows your tiny mind. And to this day, I mean, I reckon I've probably done 10 Baumas over the years. And there remain holes that I haven't seen. For those that know, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You can go in various entrances, but we will be parking sort of down the far end, about as far away from the Liebherr stand as you can get. You go in and you go on a travelator, one of these moving walkways, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And as you're going along, you can see the halls down to the side. And some of them are, piling equipment. Some of them are on highway trucks, and they're all gleaming and chrome. But because they're not my thing, I've never set foot in them. I just go all the way to the end, all the way to the end, all the way to the end. And Liebherr is there. If you look slightly behind you, you'll see Kinshofer. Look slightly that way, you'll see Sennerbogen. If you walk round past Sennerbogen, there's Volvo. And if you go past Volvo, you will see the Doosan Develon stand. But by that, there is a hall. If you go in that hall, Caterpillar and Komatsu are in that hall. And it's just, kid in a candy store doesn't even begin to explain the magnitude. And it's just, we're fortunate enough to have exhibitors passes, so we can actually get in there very early doors. We'll be on site 7:30 in the morning to get some of our stuff done before everybody else arrives. But even then, there are people milling about. There are queues at the doors, and on the opening day, there is a main entrance with turnstiles, and there will be. It's like a football match. There'll be 10, 15, 20,000 people crammed into a hall waiting for the security guy to press the button to open the turnstiles. And then everybody surges in. It's just unbelievable, honestly. What do we got here? The club I worked in was the original Winchester Club in Chalk Farm. Even saw one of the judges who put me down come dressed in drag one night. That's surely that's a blackmail opportunity to be had, isn't it? Gary Muirhead, Bauma, I'd love to go one year to get up to speed with new technology, all the latest equipment coming to the market, see if any prototypes actually make it to the workplace. In most cases, in my experience, if a construction equipment company has gone so far as to build a prototype, it's pretty close. There have been exceptions. That project Tetra thing that Case did a while back, Bauma 2019 or 2016, I think. That was completely a complete prototype, which, to my knowledge, has never actually been made into a real living, breathing thing. But unlike the car industry, where they show these outlandish prototypes, if a construction equipment company has gone as far as to build a prototype, they're usually pretty close. The finished product may not look exactly like that, and what you're looking at, claims of hydrogen power, they may be ahead of themselves. This is what a hydrogen machine would look like if we had hydrogen. That's more the case. But if there's a prototype there, you can guarantee it's pretty close. Pretty close. Mark, hope you have your walking muscles and shoes ready. Now, on that subject, so because I do this for a living, a bit like you guys, I'm sure there are things that you guys do that are now second nature. to me, second nature as far as exhibitions are concerned is the investment in a new pair of Skechers. New pair of Skechers trainers, because they got memory foam in them. And I can tell you, from my experience, a pair of Skechers will last you 2 shows. So I could do an Intermat and a Samota, throw them away, start again. I can do a Conexpo and Plantworks, throw them away. The new babies are here. They are ready. They are ready to slot onto my feet, and yeah, it is hard. I mean, I joked to the intern at Komatsu this morning. I hope you've been in training, because it is astonishing the amount of steps that you'll clock up. 20, 30, 40,000 steps in a day, because it is just so vast. Let's have a look. I'm actually surprised they've not had a similar thing here like Bauma. I don't think we've got the space. I can't think of anywhere we could hold it. I mean, it would dwarf the NEC. Absolutely dwarf the NEC. Peter McKenna says, me and Dan didn't miss a thing at Plantworks. You've been wanting merch off everyone. Yeah, well, listen, even if you were on site at 8 o'clock in the morning at Bauma, and you didn't leave there till 6 o'clock in the evening, and you just walked and walked and walked and walked and walked, you would not. I guarantee you would not see everything. And that I've said this before on the show. One of the hardest things about this job, frustrating is more the point, is you go there and you put your heart and soul into it. That when you're running out of time, you're literally running between stands to make sure you get as much as you possibly can. And then you get back on the plane and you bump into, I don't know, Peter Haddock or Nick Drew or somebody, and they say, "Oh, did you see the so and so?" And you think, "Shit, missed it. So caught up over here that I didn't see that was over there." Loads of times. Mick says, there was a lot of well-known faces who came in there in drag. Could tell you a few stories about Dolphin Square and what went on there. Bloody politicians, all weird. And yet we elect them. Yeah, judges too. Why is it judges and politicians are all a bit sexually squiffy? Dan says, driving me nuts in a candy store if I was there. Sounds bloody awesome. There is going to be another Bauma in April 2028. Save for it. Book the time off work. Save for it. Even if you just drive there yourself, have a look, get in the car and come back home again. Bearing in mind the amount of time that you dedicate to this show, and for that I'm eternally grateful. You are clearly one of the faithful. Once in your life, go and have a look, because honestly, Bauma is to plant and equipment what Vegas is to sightseeing. You literally walk in and it's like, I cannot believe what I'm looking at. It really is. Jim says Bauma's on my radar, but can't see me getting a chance for another few years. 3 years you've got. 3 years. What's the food like on site at Bauma? Pretty good. There are many pretzels. The bratwurst, basically the hot dog, fantastic. The only problem with them is no, there is no problem with the bratwurst, and there's beer on tap from like 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you're that way inclined, you can do all of that. The only problem is that the bratwursts are that good that you end up eating them 2, 3, 4 times, and in the end you think, I can't eat any more of these because I'm starting to look like a sausage. And then last time we were there, we went off and we found basically a sausage, a sandwich place, and I had a chicken tikka wrap. Bloody horrible, absolutely bloody horrible. So I went back to the sausages after that. Peter McKenna says, "I'm also legless before I start drinking." Well done. True, Peter, and I got in a day early, all thanks to the wonderful Luke Hardy. Yeah. Mixes. I've had my Skechers 4 years, and they're I now wear them down the yard as they're on their way out. Yeah, I've got a pair that I fanny around in the garden that are mucky and fraying and stuff like that. I've got the pair that I'm just wheedling out, which I've been wearing for the last year or so. But the new ones, the black ones, are going to Bauma. They are they're going to save my feet, I hope. having lost toenails in the past to exhibitions, genuinely, I've listen, in the grand scheme of things, when I'm talking to demolition and construction folk, losing a toenail for walking a bit too far, it's hardly a major injury. But I tell you what, it does slow you down. You missed the comment before the punchline, Mark. Oh, hang on a minute, let me go back. Where is it? You could be the bearded lady. Is that the one? Oh, hang on a minute. Here we go. I was shit dressed in drag. I look bloody awful. Mind you, I'm not the best when dressed as a man, he says. And then I'm also legless before I start drinking. My apologies. Mix just said, have a good day, gents. Stay safe. A walk is time. Yeah, go and give the hound a big hug for me, would you? I think that should do us. That should do us. That's an hour. Well, it's not quite an hour because I was 4 or 5 minutes late, but it's kind of an hour. I'll be back tomorrow. I promise. I promise that I will be here tomorrow on time. In truth, I was here on time, but I couldn't talk to 2 different screens at the same time because both of you would have freaked out. Both you and Komatsu would have freaked out. So I promise to be better, a bit less tardy tomorrow. Till then, everybody, go and have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again very soon. And if you did enjoy that spiel about all things Bauma related, I think it's on LinkedIn right now. You can read it at your leisure, but it's also over on our new website. It's not that new, but demolitioninsider.substack.com. We're getting subscribers over there like they're going out of fashion at the moment. I think we're knocking on the door of 3,000 subscribers over there, which is going great. So please go and have a look at that, and have a great day, says Dan Cullen. Looking for work at the moment. Oh yeah. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. Somebody will recognize the error of their ways and welcome you into their bosom, Dan, I'm sure. And you were spanking, Mark. Less said about my weekend, the better. Everybody have a fantastic day. See you soon. All the best.